17-0. That is Alizhan Muratov's current record of pins at East vs West, along with a flawless 5-0 match record. This comes alongside countless other wins at WAF, with his most recent run in the 2023 Arm Wrestling Championship, in which he secured first place in the 110 plus kilo group after dominating every single super heavyweight in the category. Known as the Giant Killer, he has risen to fame in the arm wrestling world for being undefeated on the left arm and consistently defeating bigger and heavier opponents such as Hermes Gasparini, Cody Merritt, and many others. And now he will face his biggest challenge yet against none other than world number 2 Artyom Morozov on the left arm. Known as the Terminator, Morozov has successfully obtained and defended his left arm title 7 times, along with the 7-0 record before recently losing it to Vitaly Laletin. So now, in just over 2 weeks' time, Alizhan faces his strongest opponent yet. Will he be able to keep his undefeated streak on the left arm, or will Morozov shatter the name of the Giant Killer once and for all? When it comes to smaller opponents defeating larger and bigger competition, one of the first names that comes to mind will no doubt be Alizhan Muratov, who has constantly defeated super heavyweight opponents while himself only weighing around 105 kilos or 231 pounds. Yet, despite his relatively light weight, Muratov is undeniably one of the strongest left-arm arm wrestlers we have ever seen. His primary technique is his signature hook, which he is able to set on just about every arm wrestler. And against someone like Morozov, who also pulls a lot on the hook, this is a good stylistic matchup for Alizhan, as he'll likely have no problem setting the hook on Morozov and getting into his favorable positions. But what truly makes Alizhan special isn't just his hook setting ability, but his explosiveness. Alizhan is one of the most explosive hook pullers in the sport, having enormous power in his hits that can rip through even the strongest hook pullers like Ivan Matyashenko. This is also an advantage for him against Morozov, since Morozov has been shown to struggle against explosive hook pullers, as evidenced by his matches with Matyashenko and David Dedikian. And yes, while he did win those matches, they were very close, and Alizhan will likely be the strongest hook puller that Morozov has ever faced. In addition to his explosive hook, another thing that Alizhan has is amazing endurance. We've seen in multiple rounds where Alizhan's hits never seem to let up on intensity, even against people who have good endurance like Prudnik. So while others appear to get weaker and weaker throughout the match, Alizhan often looks like he is getting stronger and stronger. We've already seen him fight through people like Prudnik, who have already showcased great endurance against Dedikian, yet was unable to contain Alizhan as the match went on despite getting some early stops. And aside from his explosive hook, great endurance, and stylistic advantage, we can also take a look at how his match history compares with Morozov, given that they've actually faced some similar opponents over time. Alizhan's most impressive win is no doubt against the hook master Ivan Matyashenko, where he was able to convincingly win 4-0, showcasing superior strength, endurance, and hooking power. Back in 2024, Morozov also faced Matyashenko, and although he did win as well, you can see that his match looked very different from Alizhan's match. While Morozov struggled to hold Matyashenko in a lot of the early rounds, Alizhan was able to stop Matyashenko and instead forcing him on the defensive side, and even eventually overpowering him completely. Another opponent that they've both faced is also Hermes Gasparini, the Italian gladiator. While Morozov looked like he struggled against Hermes in the opening round, Alizhan was able to easily hook and overpower an even stronger version of Hermes with ease. And if that wasn't convincing enough, Alizhan has actually beaten Morozov himself multiple times in the past before. So, if Alizhan holds a stylistic advantage, has beaten Morozov's opponents easier, and has even beaten Morozov himself, does Morozov even have any chance against the Giant Killer? While being bigger and heavier isn't always the end-all be-all in arm wrestling, to say that it doesn't matter would be insane, as both the world's top dogs on both arms are absolute giants. And when it comes to Morozov, that fully applies as well. Standing at 6'4" or 195 centimeters and weighing about 142 kilos or 313 pounds, Morozov holds just about every single physical advantage over Alizhan. He has a bigger hand, bigger biceps, bigger forearms, towers half a foot above him, and weighs over 80 pounds more, or about 39 kilos. And this isn't weight and fat either. Morozov is genuinely quite lean despite being over 300 pounds, meaning that this is weight in pure muscle instead of just fat like we've seen with others like Devin. So in pretty much every single physical aspect, Morozov has Alizhan beat. And to say that Alizhan has an overwhelming stylistic advantage would also be incorrect, given that Morozov is also one of the strongest hook pullers in the world as well. Morozov has defeated many of the world's best hook pullers, like David Dedikian and Ivan Matyashenko in a hook, as well as handling Alex Kardecha, Tobias Esperong, Corey West, and more. In addition, Morozov is also way more versatile compared to Alizhan, having showcased great top rolling, hooking, and pressing capabilities. Now, although I don't think techniques like top rolling or flop pressing will work against Alizhan, I do think that Morozov's press could be very deadly against him if he manages to get into a good position. And it's also worth noting that Alizhan himself has not showcased much of a press in his arsenal, as he mostly finishes all his matches through a hook only. In addition, one of Morozov's greatest strengths that's even more impressive than Alizhan is his legendary endurance. While Alizhan does have great endurance, Morozov might have the best endurance of all arm wrestlers on the left arm. We've seen this time and time again, where he struggles in the opening rounds, then gasses out his opponents, like against Dedikian and Matyashenko, where he is unable to keep up with their explosive hits in the opening, but then eventually gasses them out and prevails in the end. We've even seen him gas out current world number 1 on the left, Vitaly Laletin, in the first rounds before he got injured. So despite Alizhan's great endurance, I still think that Morozov has the superior endurance, simply because he's showcased it more. In Alizhan's matches, he can mostly finish his opponents through his initial hits, whereas Morozov has showcased incredible ability to endure long wars and tough positions. And as for their matches in the past, I do think that it's hardly indicative of their current level simply because of how long ago they were. Their brief meetup in 2020 was a single round format, which was also over 6 years ago, and we've already seen how much can change in just a few years. For example, Hermes lost to Matt Mask in 2019 at WAL. Then, just 2 years later, came back and obliterated him. And of course, nowadays, we know that Matt obviously doesn't stand a chance against Hermes at all. And this is especially true with Morozov, who looks like he tripled in size from the time of his practice pool with Alizhan to his match with Vitaly. So while Alizhan has gotten bigger as well, Morozov literally looks like he turned into a giant, and that clearly shows with his massive weight advantage. So, with all that being said, who will take this match for the world number 2 spot? Well, in my personal opinion, this is one of the closest 50-50 matches that I've ever predicted. I really think that this could go either way and that either man has nearly identical chances of beating the other. But if I had to settle on a final score, my official prediction will be Artyom Morozov 3-2 against Alizhan Muratov. Now, if you have Alizhan taking the win, I wouldn't be mad or surprised at all, given that I do believe that this match will be very, very close. So why Morozov? If anything, based on their matches with similar opponents, Alizhan should blow Morozov out of the water. But, here's the thing. Based on Morozov's most recent match against Vitaly, I simply think that he's stronger simply because of how well he performed. In that match, he displayed amazing endurance, back pressure, and holding ability. And while the hook will be a stylistically different matchup, I do think that if Morozov shows up to the match in the same peak form that he did against Vitaly, then he will take the win. It's also worth noting that Alizhan hasn't actually faced anybody in the top 5 left arm at open weight, while Morozov has already faced and proven himself against every single top 5 arm wrestler, with the exception of Devin, having defeated both Dedikian and Kardecha, as well as giving a very good fight to Vitaly. In fact, even if you extend it to the top 10, the only person that Alizhan has beaten in the open weight left arm category is Matyashenko, with every single person before that not even cracking the top 10 in the open weight category. And while I do think that he would obviously beat a lot of people on this list as well, I just think that Morozov is the better proven arm wrestler, especially with his recent performance against Vitaly, which dwarfs anything that Alizhan has ever done so far. However, there is a silver lining here. Just over a year ago, during the Vitaly match, Morozov was injured on his left, where he suffered a complete epicondyle tendon tear as a result from Vitaly's intense hits. Morozov himself said that it was an injury dating back to 2019, which was bothering him in both the Kurdecha and Matyashenko matches. At the time, he said he needed at least 1 year of recovery time from that match, and as of the time that the Alizhan match was announced, it would mean that he's had pretty much exactly 1 year to recover before he's forced to start prepping for the Alizhan match. This makes sense, as typically, a complete epicondyle tendon tear requires roughly 6 months to a year to fully rehab from and return to high-intensity activity. And even then, it's not fully guaranteed that you will always be able to return to your peak shape pre-injury. Nonetheless, this is especially bad for Morozov because pulling in a hook puts much more pressure on the elbow, which is where he got injured, and Alizhan is exclusively a powerful hook puller. So, the big question is, can Morozov return to his prime shape in just a year's time? Well, maybe. We've seen injuries like Devin's bicep tear, where he was able to return to pool against Prudnik in just under 6 months' time. Meanwhile, Levan's wrist injury took him well over a year to recover before his next match. So, if Morozov is unable to return to his prime form like he was against Vitaly and is still being hindered by injury, then I can very well see this match going to Alizhan 3-0. And obviously, the same would apply if he gets injured during the match as well. But, if he is able to return at full strength, then I do think that we will be in for one of the most legendary hook wars that we have ever seen in arm wrestling history. I have zero doubt that this match will go into the hook, and it's very likely that both Alizhan and Morozov know this. For the first 2 rounds, I see Alizhan hitting hard and fast, while Morozov is barely able to hold him above the pad, before Alizhan surges multiple times before finally getting the pin. Then, during the 3rd round, Morozov gets the stop again, but this time, Alizhan is unable to finish him, and slowly, Morozov brings him back to his B-side and goes on the offensive. While Alizhan holds him, Morozov transitions into the press and pins Alizhan. The 4th and 5th rounds play out the same in this fashion as well, with Alizhan bringing Morozov dangerously close to the pin pad, but ultimately unable to finish him before Morozov tires him out and pins him with a press. But regardless of the result, there is no doubt that this is one of, if not the most anticipated match on the East vs West 23 card. So, what do you think? Who will walk away with the world number 2 spot on the left arm in just over 2 weeks' time? Will Alizhan maintain his perfect record, or will Morozov end the title of the Giant Killer once and for all? Let me know in the comments below.